Hello everyone, GoldenNova here, and I'm back on my custom card nonsense. Every month, I'll be curating a selection of custom card submissions to show off to all of you. Stick around till the end of the video to see how you can submit your own cards, and each episode will have a theme all its own. This month, we're going to be doing a little something about Supreme Darkness. It's a core set jam-packed with fan-favorite archetypes, but it's not exactly shaking up the competitive landscape. So I wanted to give the themes another chance to shine, and I figured all of you would be the best ones to turn to help realize their full potential. So grasp the power of evil that sleeps deep within, cause it's time for the Supreme Darkness custom card review. Today's episode is possible thanks to viewers like you, as well as my patrons. If you like what I do here, I would super appreciate it if you'd subscribe to help us reach another wonderful milestone video. And if you want to support me directly while getting some awesome benefits, check out the link to my Patreon in the description below. Part 1. Evil Hero. As the cover theme for this set, let's start with some Evil Hero support. This wave was made by Sirnite JCB and seeks to bring even more iconic heroes into the fold of terror. Evil Hero Exiled Neos is a level 7 Wind Fiend fusion monster with 2500 attack and 2000 defense, requiring Elemental Hero Neos and either Neospatian Air Hummingbird or a Wind monster as material. It must either be special summoned from the extra deck with Dark Fusion, or by shuffling the above cards from your hand, field, and or graveyard into the deck while Dark Fusion is in your grave. If this card is special summoned, you can gain life points equal to the number of cards in your opponent's hand times 500, then this card gains attack equal to the same amount of life points. And while your life points are equal to or higher than your opponent's as a quick effect, you can pay 1000 life points, then target one card your opponent controls and place that card on the bottom of your opponent's deck. So everything about this card's design from a flavor perspective rules. If Air Neos is going to be excluded from cards like Instant Contact, then there's only one place for them to go: the Pantheon of Ne'er-do-wells. The addition of the Contact Fusion method helps add to the Neos energy while maintaining the must-be fusion summoned by Dark Fusion text, so it's easy to access, but as for what it does, boy howdy does this get out of hand quickly. Summoning this can potentially get you a huge chunk of life points. Even only a couple of cards in your opponent's hand means 1000 extra life points to work with, and getting that for free as part of a combo line gives you a lot of wiggle room. Not to mention that pays for our quick effect, potentially puts us over the threshold to use it, and makes us a 3500 attack body. And boy howdy is this easy to make. Getting Dark Fusion into the graveyard isn't going to be that difficult, especially with some more support we'll be talking about later, and the material monsters will be even easier. Neos is kind of a given if you're this deep into the theme, and the Wind monster requirement is ludicrous. I can't imagine why you would actually be running Air Hummingbird in an Evil Hero deck, but it lets you recycle copies of Stratos or even hand traps like Droll and Lockbird. That being said, a big monster with some quick removal but no protection is fodder for basically any kind of removal on the market. Very flavorful, but probably a bit overtuned. Evil Hero Supreme Phoenix Enforcer is a level 8 Dark Fiend fusion monster with 2600 attack and 2100 defense, requiring a Destiny Hero monster and a Dark monster special summoned from the extra deck that must first be special summoned with Dark Fusion. For each card that is Dark Fusion or mentions it that's on your field or in your graveyard, your opponent's monsters lose 100 attack and monsters you control gain 100 attack. As a quick effect, you can discard 1 or 2 cards to apply the appropriate effect based on the number of cards discarded. For 1, destroy a card on each field. Then, if one of those cards is an Evil Hero monster, you can special summon an Evil Hero monster from your grave during the standby phase of the next turn. If you discarded 2, fusion summon a fusion monster from your extra deck using monsters on either field. After that, you can't special summon monsters from the extra deck the turn you use this effect, except hero monsters. Now, thankfully, even though we use a Destiny Hero for this isn't as easy as deploying a Fusion Destiny. Not to mention, we need that extra deck summoned monster to make this work. This Evil Hero take on Destroyer Phoenix Enforcer is pretty cool, splitting the difference of the original's debuff effect by giving some of that over as a buff to your monsters. From here though, we get a huge swing away from Exiled Neos' design. Whereas that card is pushed beyond belief, this one is honestly too fair. It has a Destroyer Phoenix Enforcer's pop, which implements a more flexible version of the revive. And thankfully, the design of this card was tweaked a bit to allow this to mimic Destroyer Phoenix Enforcer's incessant revival. It only has to first be summoned by Dark Fusion, as opposed to a bunch of the other evil heroes which just have to be summoned by Dark Fusion. However, it also incorporates the power of the Supreme King's super polymerization. but both effects come at the cost of various discards, which does limit you in what scenarios you can actually use them in. Destroyer Phoenix Enforcer was scary for a number of reasons, and one of them was that you could drop the pop out of nowhere without any investment. With Supreme Phoenix Enforcer, your ability to do so is kind of constrained. That being said, with everything the card can do, it's probably better from a design perspective that it actually costs some stuff and is a bit telegraphed. And hey, it's Yu-Gi-Oh! Discards are basically enablers here anyway. Evil Hero Supreme Neos Lord is a level 11 Dark Fiend fusion monster with 2800 attack and 2400 defense, requiring Evil Hero Neos Lord and a fairy monster or a monster originally owned by your opponent as material. It must be special summoned from your extra deck with Dark Fusion or by banishing the above cards from your field and or graveyard while Dark Fusion is in your grave. This card cannot be destroyed by battle. Also, your fusion monsters that must be special summoned with Dark Fusion cannot be destroyed by card effects. As a quick effect, you can target one face-up monster you control and reduce the attack of all of your opponent's monsters to 0, and if you do, that monster gains attack equal to half the combined lost attack, but for the rest of the turn, you can only attack with one monster, and these changes last until the end of the turn. The fairy material threw me for a loop for a bit there, but this is probably a nod to how Neos has an alt form in Honest Neos, and Honest is a fairy. Either that, or we've joined forces with the malevolent winged Karibo. Though they did just drop Dark Karibo over the course of recording this, so maybe we're onto something here. Regardless, that's probably all for flavor. The alternate material letting us use a monster owned by our opponent is instantly fulfilled by the effect of Neos Lord. So if you make Lord, you've basically got Supreme Lord. And with a sufficiently large opposing force, this can close out a game all by itself. I mean, it's a non-targeting effect that drains the attack of all monsters on the field. This is like Arc Rebellion Xyz Dragon on a whole other level. Even only gaining half the lowered stats can be devastating, though it will have to lower 10,400 attack in total to get the necessary boost to reach 8k, so it's not a death sentence most of the time, but against certain boards, you can really make your opponent regret overextending. It's what makes it so very dangerous. Our last Evil Hero card is Supreme Darkness, a continuous trap card that you can activate the turn it was set if Dark Fusion or a spell that mentions it is in your graveyard. When your opponent activates a card or effect that targets any number of fusion monsters you control, while you control a fusion monster that must be special summoned with Dark Fusion, you can negate that effect. During the main phase, you can send from your deck to the grave or banish from your grave a Dark Fusion or a normal spell card that mentions it, and this effect becomes that card's effect when it's activated. Also, if it includes an effect to fusion summon a monster, it's treated as a fusion summon with Dark Fusion. But what can we actually do with that last effect? Well, there are 5 different targets that you can use with this card. You can either turn it into Dark Fusion, the standard choice, Dark Calling for a Miracle Fusion aspect, Evil Assault, which gets you a level 4 or lower Evil Hero, Dark Contact, which gets you a fusion summon using your Banishment, which is really cool, and Evil Mind, probably the most interesting option here because it's probably the most awkward to use by itself. It's a lame card to have in hand if you don't meet the prerequisites, and if your opponent denies you a Fiend, you get no value. But with Supreme Darkness's help, you can activate it ignoring the activation conditions, and whenever you need to randomly draw a card or do even more, you can just send it to the grave. And then of course there's the targeting protection it provides, which is a sweet little bonus on top of the flexibility you get. This makes for an excellent capstone to Evil Heroes, giving them a more exciting end board than Change of Heart or Dark Gaia Remix. And if we tone down Exiled Neos a little bit, I would love to see this as a real release, especially with the attentiveness of the references. It's almost like looking at the offerings from a Legendary Duelist pack. Part 2. Metal Morph. Up next is an archetype I was pretty happy to see get more support, the Metal Morph cards. The Flame Swordsman edition proved that the team was willing to extend beyond the reaches of the original monsters that benefited from the trap card's power, which basically means all kinds of creatures can show up to bolster their roster, and all the better that we're getting some Bandit Keith cards to even out the Joey representation. Thank you Sonic 21 Blast for these ones. Overcharged Barrel Dragon is a level 8 Dark Machine monster with 3000 attack and 2600 defense that can't be normal summoned or set, and must first be special summoned with Max Metal Morph that was activated by tributing a level 5 or higher machine monster. You can reveal this card in your hand to add a card that mentions Max Metal Morph from your grave or banishment, except a copy of this card, to your hand, and if you do, shuffle this card into the deck. And up to thrice per turn, when your opponent activates a card or effect, as a quick effect, you can toss a coin and apply the following result. If it was heads, negate the activation, and if you do, destroy that card, then draw a card. If it's Tails, look at your opponent's hand, then banish one card from your opponent's hand, field, or graveyard. Ah, good old thrice per turns. You'll love to see them, especially when it feels right. Gate Guardians combined had it for their 3 parts, and now Overcharged Barrel Dragon has it for the 3 guns. You don't get to be proactive with it like the previous versions of Barrel Dragon, but the name of the game for Metal Morph retrains has been Negation, so I think it scans. It may not be as reliable as our previous cards, but it is cool. Winning is, of course, what you're looking to get out of this. Negating a card and drawing is pretty slick, but even if you lose, you get to banish one of your opponent's cards. You even get to take a peek at their hand. That's outrageous! Also, it's really funny that, as a machine, you contribute other evolved Max Metal Morph monsters to make this, giving you the option to dodge removal or get in a ton of damage during the battle phase. I think the lack of consistency incurred by the coin flips makes this a hard sell for the top tables, but this is already mostly a fun strategy anyway, so I think it passes the vibe check. Enhanced Blast Spider is a level 4 Dark Machine monster with 1400 attack and defense. You increase this card's level by 1 during your opponent's turn only, and when your opponent special summons a monster, except during the damage step, you can special summon this card from your hand or grave. If this card is normal or special summoned, you can destroy a monster your opponent controls and a card you control that mentions Max Metal Morph or a Metal Morph trap card. Then, if you control a card that mentions Max Metal Morph, you can inflict damage to your opponent equal to the total attack of all monsters destroyed by this effect to your opponent. This shares similar design space to BM4 Blast Spider, a card I am absolutely obsessed with, so I'm happy to see it show up again here. The idea of destroying cards while dealing damage is basically all upside, especially if you meet the secondary requirement to actually deal that damage. If you pop Enhanced Blast Spider, you're dealing at least 1400 damage in that regard. But the part that I'm worried about is, well, you've basically made a hand trap that punishes special summoning that also activates while it's in the graveyard, and because the additional restriction is tied only to the burn damage, not the summoning or destruction effect, and because you don't have to destroy another card that mentions Max Metal Morph, you can essentially run this in any deck, and then hold it for when your opponent special summons a monster you don't like. Run out the spider, pop it and the troublesome monster, and even though you don't get the burn, there you go, removal with little to no opportunity cost. Honestly, if it just had to pop a different card of yours, this would be aces. And to be fair, I can't say that every deck would run this under the circumstances. I mean, Ghost Ogre exists, and that's a tuner that you can special summon with E-Telly that also hits spell and trap cards, but Ghost Ogre is a card you can only activate one time. This is one that keeps happening until you answer it with a Bestial or some kind of Grave Hate, which potentially makes it downright oppressive. But, you know, if we ignore all those problems, this card is a perfect fit for the theme. Metallic Grave Robber is a counter trap card that is always treated as a Metal Morph card. When your opponent activates a spell card, trap card, or monster effect while you control a monster equipped with a Metal Morph trap card, negate the activation, and if you do, destroy that card. Then, if you control a level 5 or higher machine monster equipped with Max Metal Morph, you can apply the following effect. Pay 2,000 life points, then add the card that was destroyed and sent to the graveyard by this effect. I presume they mean add it to your hand, not many other places you can add to, but honestly, I'm a fan here. As a Metal Morph trap card, you can grab this with basically every monster in the theme, so it's an Omni-Negate you almost always have access to. You just need to make sure you have the right monster on board to use it. It even lets you steal the card, which is absolutely righteous, very in keeping with the original while still maintaining the hefty cost. Overall, I think this is probably the best crafted out of this pile of cards, and while I would like to see Enhanced Blast Spider go through another round of revisions, we've got another solid wave of support going on here. It's just not a meta-defining one. Part 3, Arcana Force. Honestly, I think the determination to keep making cards for a theme that just is not gonna work, kinda admirable. I don't think it's effort well spent, but whatever Rebel King Lucifer wants to focus on in their own time is their own business. Thank you again for the cards, by the way. Arcana Force 8 Strength is a level 5 Light Fairy monster with 1800 attack and defense, and if your opponent controls a monster and you control an Arcana Force monster, you can special summon this card from your hand. For its on-summon coin toss effect, Heads has you taking control of a monster your opponent controls, but it can't attack, and with Tails, your opponent takes control of as many other monsters you control as possible, their choice in case they run out of space and can only take so many. Though, if you're just on Arcana Force monsters, that downside doesn't really mean anything because you can just contact fuse everything away for the Chaos rule. So really, half the time you just get a free monster from your opponent. And while you can't add it to your offensive pressure, it's still out of the way for your attacks and can provide its effect if applicable to you. It's certainly a good choice to grab off of Light Force instead of the Sun for the Chaos Ruler combo if there's a good monster to steal, but otherwise you can just stick with the big burning ball of gas in the sky to get things going. Arcana Force 10, Wheel of Fortune, is a level 5 Light Fairy monster with 2000 attack and defense with the same special summon condition as Strength. For its on-summon coin toss effect, a Heads adds a spell or trap card that has a coin tossing effect from your deck to your hand, and on Tails, neither player can add cards from their deck to their hands except by drawing them, while this monster is on the field. You can banish this card and one other Arcana Force monster from your graveyard, then target a spell or trap card in your grave that has a coin tossing effect and add it to your hand. This is a pretty nifty addition to the theme, giving you a way to search a number of your on and off theme support cards while also giving you a way to recover it from the graveyard to give it a second wind. The Tails effect is basically Thunder Dragon Colossus, but is a bit less egregious because not only does it lack a protection effect, it also affects both players. Though with how you can set this symmetrical effect up to be as asymmetrical as possible, it makes me a little more suspicious. Also, it's hard to say no to a big 2k body you can drop out of your hand for free damage. How fortunate. Arcana Force 13, the Reaper, is a level 6 Light Fairy monster with 2300 attack and defense, and for its on-summon coin toss effect, Heads makes it so, during your main phase, you can tribute a monster to target an Arcana Force monster in your grave and special summon it, and with Tails, neither player can special summon monsters from the grave, nor activate monster effects in the grave. And if this card is in the grave, you can send an Arcana Force monster on the field to the graveyard to special summon this card, but banish it when it leaves the field. This is another really cool take on the subject matter. By sacrificing an Arcana Force, you can get rid of one that tossed an unhelpful effect to get another shot with a different monster. Or heck, summon out the same monster since the target comes after you pay the tribute cost. It's also sometimes a grave monster floodgate, which is very interesting and can even revive itself. Overall, fantastic little addition. I was wondering why it lacked a way to summon itself out of the hand for a bit, but then after reading it, the answer became clear. Murder was the best option the entire time. Selection of Fate is a normal spell card that reveals 2 Arcana Force monsters, one from your hand and one from your deck, and makes your opponent randomly choose one of them. Then, apply this effect based on where the chosen monster was revealed from at activation. If the monster from the hand was chosen, special summon that monster, then send the other monster to the grave. If the monster from the deck was chosen, add that monster to your hand, then special summon the other monster to the opponent's field, then immediately after this effect resolves, you can normal summon an Arcana Force monster. So in general, you're gonna want to pick a level 4 or lower Arcana Force monster from your deck. That way, if the deck monster is chosen, you'll be able to ensure that normal summon gets some good use. Unless you already have enough monsters in hand to make use of it regardless. In fact, it's also probably the best option, as it gets another free Arcana Force monster onto the field for Chaos Ruler summons. But the hand card being chosen isn't too bad either. It's basically a free way to get a monster from your hand onto the field with a Foolish Burial tacked on. Probably would have benefited from a clause like Arcana Reading to let you choose the outcome under Light Barrier, but as far as Arcana Force cards go, this is really playable. Our last card for this section is Wand of Ace, a normal trap card that targets an Arcana Force monster in your graveyard. You toss a coin and apply the appropriate effect. If it's heads, special summon the target, and if you do, gain life points equal to its original attack, and if you flip tails, special summon that monster to your opponent's field, then you can special summon an Arcana Force monster with a different name from your hand or grave to your field. And during your main phase, except the turn this card was sent to the grave, you can banish both this card and one other card from your grave that has a coin tossing effect, then target an Arcana Force monster on the field, and that monster instead gains the other effect that it would gain from its coin tossing effect. Hey, more control of your Arcana effects isn't a bad thing, and a way to do that tacked onto a kind of revival tool seems pretty fun. Summoning an Arcana Force from the graveyard is basically guaranteed, though may not be what you're looking for. But a monster is a monster, and once again, giving your opponent an Arcana Force just means more fodder for you later on when it comes to Chaos Ruler. It lacks the immediate gratification, or lack thereof, provided by Cup of Ace, but should still make for a welcome addition to what is the theme's new style of play. I'm still not blown away by Arcana Force, but this is putting in some good vibes for its new win condition, and I'll certainly toast to that. No, you can't actually toast with a wand. Cast to that? Part 4, Materiactor. The last bundle of cards I wanted to talk about on today's episode was an update to one of the strangest drops in the game's history, Materiactors. After showing up as a TCG exclusive theme and then vanishing for long periods of time, their true forms have finally been unveiled. So let's see what one more little push can do for them. Thank you to Great Big Pillock for these ones. Materiactor Millisect is a level 3 Wind Dragon monster with 500 attack and defense, and if you control a level 3 normal monster or a Materiactor, except a copy of this card, you can special summon this card from your hand, but banish it when it leaves the field. Also, you can't special summon monsters from the extra deck for the rest of the turn, except Xyz monsters. And a Materiactor Xyz monster that was summoned using this card on the field as material gains the following effect. If this card is Xyz summoned, you can attach a Materiactor card from your deck or grave to a Materiactor Xyz monster you control as material. So right off the bat, we're going sicko mode. Gigadra and Exoraptor both love discarding cards, so pitching Millisect is just basically giving yourself free material to work with, and the self-banishing is not a problem for Xyz monsters. On top of that, scooping up another Materiactor card as material is one step away from putting it into your hand, with Gigaboros doing it during your opponent's turn, while Exegard does it as part of its summon response effect. Heck, it makes that effect almost effortless to use, even with minimal material on it, and no support from our other cards, because you can detach any of the original material you used to make Exegard, and no matter what, because of the extra Materiactor material Millisect gave you, you'll have at least one on-theme card to enable you to use the effect for bouncing. And while its self-summon effect is a hard once per turn, the gifting effect is not. So the more Millisects you put under a Materiactor when you make it, the more stuff you can cram under it. Or any other Materiactor Xyz you control. This is just like the most perfect a piece of legacy support can be. It's the kind of stuff that would happen on a real card and you'd call that a custom card, and we're not even done yet. Materiactor Zeftworm is a rank 3 Fire Dragon Xyz monster with 1000 attack and defense, requiring 2 or more level 3 monsters as material. It gains 300 attack for each material attached to monsters on the field, and you can detach a material from this card and target a Materiactor monster in your grave to special summon that target in defense position. Then, you can special summon a level 3 normal monster from your grave in defense position. And this is a quick effect if this card has a normal monster as material. But you can't special summon monsters from your extra deck to when you activate this effect, except Xyz monsters. So it's a Materiactor Xyz that essentially makes more Materiactor Xyz monsters, as long as you have the normal monsters in grave to complete the circuit. And you know what's the most bonkers part about this? There's no usage clauses here. No soft once per turn, no hard once per turn. Zeftworm can, at minimum, use this effect twice. To say nothing of what happens if Millisect was used to summon this, giving it even more materials. Even needing a normal monster isn't that much of an issue, because the normal monster you summon out with one effect can fold into a rank 3, then you detach it to pay for an effect activation, and now it's back in the graveyard to summon again. And any used up Xyz monster, since they're all rank 3s, can just be folded into Utopic Draco futures as long as you don't make any number monsters. Millisect fits right in as a good power boost for the theme, but Zeftworm? Good grief! Now, if we put a hard once per turn on this, hey, it's a nifty way to ensure you can make a second rank 3 to make a UDF without giving you an abundance of other Xyz monsters to work with all by itself. I can't speak for what it would do with the other support in the theme. But that's not the card we have. What we have here is Xyz Monster Turbo, and this is scary. Materiactor Fusion is a quick play spell card that is not treated as a fusion spell card, a cheeky little naming convention that Pillock threw in there because while the Xyz deck doesn't have anything to do with fusions, it does have a lot to do with nuclear terminology. We clear? Okay. It targets any number of Materiactor monsters and or level 3 normal monsters that you control, and immediately after this effect resolves, Xyz summon a Materiactor Xyz monster using those monsters as material. If any number of Materiactor monsters you control would be destroyed by a card effect, you can banish this card from your grave instead. So it's a fusion spell that's not a fusion card that takes your monsters and it combines them into something from your extra deck. Now, because this works at quick effect speed with no restrictions, this can be used to punk some extra damage, but because the material monsters are all kinda lame, I don't think that'll be much of a problem. El Shaddoll Fusion OTK, this is not. And the Grave Protection is pretty nice too. Its activated effect can also be used to help dodge some interaction, but aside from that, there's not really a lot to add here. It's basically transplanting design from another card and applying it to Materiactors. Materiactor Fission is a normal trap card that targets a Materiactor Xyz monster you control to attach a Materiactor card from your deck to that monster as material. You can banish this card from your grave and target a Materiactor Xyz monster you control to attach one other Materiactor card from your grave or banishment to that monster as material. You can only use one effect of this card per turn and only once per turn. Like with Fusion, not a lot to go off of here as far as conversation goes. It attaches more on-theme material, which is something we've seen from several cards in the theme before, but the grave effect is a nice way to grab some banished or yarded monsters, but is otherwise just a cake up your Materiactors some more kind of effect. Basically, our spell and trap cards here are nice support, but our monsters are the really exciting additions because they are busted. And that's all the ones I'll be covering on today's episode, but that's not all the cards I got. If I covered all of them, we'd be here for twice as long, and I want these to be relatively breezy. But all of them are going to get their chance to shine. I'm going to be covering all the custom cards that get submitted live on my Twitch. It's going to be on the Thursday of February 27th, though I haven't quite hashed out a time yet. But following me on the Discord and Blue Sky are great ways to keep up with all the latest news, and of course, following me on Twitch is a great way to get an alert for when I go live with this. And that means there's still plenty of time to submit your own custom cards. Just join my Patreon at the $5 or higher tier, and you'll gain access to a special section of my Discord where you can submit your cards. And I'll be running them all through my patented Nova scale for all to see. But until then, I'd like to hear what all of you have to say. Did you enjoy the format of this episode? And was there a particular custom that you liked? If you have any critiques, those are more than welcome, but make it civil, please. And if you would do me a favor, be sure to like the video if you liked it, subscribe so you don't miss an episode, and be sure to share this video with somebody you know who loves Yu-Gi-Oh! It really does a lot to help me out, especially when attempting to set up a new series. Everything you do can help get the word out and shows that you want to see more of this in the future. Today's episode is brought to you by Dragon Shield. Get the sleeves as strong as dragon scales that even come with their own lore, and save 5% on your order by using the coupon code GoldenNova at checkout. It was also brought to you by my lovely patrons, including this month's illustrious Quasar Commanders, Upstairs Media, and the Critic of Innocence, Nebula Navigator's Third Dynasty, 50 Gigabytes, Ada Basilisk, Adam Zajdel, Ancient Wizard, Andrew Newman, Battle Axe, Kane Senpai, Charlie Mercury, Chibi Gohan, Christopher Fuss, Clockswork, Comrade Copperbottom, Eric, Frankie, Garland Chaos, Green Knight, Great Big Pillock, Hair Bear, Happy Majin, Harry the Ominous Benefactor, Iron Zero, Iskander 711, Carp, Marion James E. Bacata, Mike Cook, Millennia Asta, Muse Clark, Neon Yami Nair, Orozco 09096, Panther J, Bactboos, Rebel King Lucifer, Red Eyes Jackalow, RJ the Jank Monarch, Sonic 21 Blast, Thievery Coast and the Wizard Moose, Cosmic Crusaders Ally Vatnia, Animasta, Anthrak, Baron von Titty Sprinkles, Beelzebub, Fish, Beluga Master, Blitzwolf, Charlie Mercury, again, Chaz Ghost, Dr. Entity RIP, Eva Padilla, Gary Lickbread, Hike Boyagian, Herbal D, Inblink, Kale the Dragon, Lobomaru 02, Manga Pages, Natiel Lee Alexander, Nitromo, Not Al Gore, Nyx, Obsidian, Pombo, Rain, Rhyme Kairos, Shizuka Nijimura, Sir-Knight JCB, Sophie, apparently, Sphilia, Stephen Williamson, The Legendary Raven, The Phantom Knights of Shitted Pants, The Gene, Tiger X2476, Weasel King of Weaseltown and Zal Dureka, as well as all the lovely Starlight Explorers you see on screen now. If you'd like to help me in my journey to cover all of Yu-Gi-Oh's archetypes, get my videos early, be a part of these credits and other awesome perks, it would mean the world to me if you check out the link to my Patreon in the description or consider joining as a YouTube member. And if you'd like to see more examples of my patrons' custom card shenanigans, I've got a playlist of all those videos right here. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.